Trump has promised the Iranian protesters that help is coming. Go after your institutions, go out and protest because help is coming, and very much implying that the United States of America will help. It didn't, at least so far, from everything we know. America is not doing anything about it, not trying to strike Ayatollah, not trying to strike some governmental buildings or support protest in some way outside of, maybe speaking positively about them. And from what we see, there might not be anything, and the protesters or the protest might actually be sort of ending, not from the lack of resolve from people in Iran, but from the brutal suppression that has happened from the Iranian state. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Joining me today is Jonathan, and I mean, Jonathan, we'll watch the video where Trump talked about this, but what how especially in Israel, how has the view been of these protests, and especially in the last few days?
Hi Dan, hey everyone. This is incredibly depressing for the Israelis, for myself. So far, what we are seeing, if this goes on, but even if America does indeed follow through and do a decisive strike, this is coming way too late. And there's also been a report that maybe Israel has requested a delay, in which case it is truly horrific, um, whatever the reasoning might be. Um, we're talking about what are even the conservative reports, they estimate more than 10,000 deaths from the
Six-
in the 15,000,
16,000.
16,000. So it's
And that's what we are talking about when it comes to deaths, people that have been murdered. When it comes to injuries, we are in hundreds of thousands
yes,
reportedly.
yes. So this is a huge tragedy for the Iranians who are advocating for peace. I actually, the other day, I published an essay that explains my view of this matter in full, and I recommend the viewers to go to my blog if you want to go deeper. But the issue is not that Israel has any, or America has an obligation to get the Iranian people freedom. That is not our obligation. The obligation is for ourselves, for self-defense, for defending our own people. And it is indeed, you could say that the Iranian people have screwed up during the 12-day war in June, that they didn't use this huge opportunity to do their uprising then, and they waited for so long. And there's a good question that you could ask, why have you waited so long? And now you're paying a price for that. Then things would have been different. So you could make, I think, a reasonable case. But that doesn't change the fact that now it's a huge opportunity and it must be taken. And it must be taken for the benefit of Israel and for the benefit of America. The regime change is good all across the board. And we can go deeper later in the show to really explain why. But this is a monumental moment, and it's very, very sad and tragic. And I think everybody feels that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. The fact is, we oftentimes talk about what when you don't combat evil, when you don't fight it, where you allow it to go on or compromise with it, that simply fuels it, and that makes it even more violent. So to some extent, yeah, you could, go to Iranians themselves, and I mean, even go to the original revolution in '79, right? That's what they started and are seeing the results of. But also we see the compromising of the West. We could have done, again, going back to '79, we could have done something about this regime. We wouldn't have to deal with this. Or even contemporary or like more modern examples, Ukraine, right? We knew about what Russia is, and 2014 should have been a waking call. And in a sense, we are still not realizing it. So let's take a look at the recent where reporters asked Trump about this.
Will you urge protesters in Iran earlier this week to keep fighting in the streets and said that help was on the way? Is help still on the way, or has your bar
Well, we're
for
going to see.
intervention
As you
changed?
know, Iran canceled the hanging of over 800 people. They were going to hang over 800 people yesterday, and I greatly respect the fact that they canceled that.
Mr. President, did Arab and Israeli officials convince you to not strike Iran?
Nobody convinced me. I convinced myself. You had yesterday scheduled over 800 hangings. They didn't hang anyone. They canceled the hangings. That had a big impact.
So, I mean, Jonathan, do you want to go first? Because I have some.
Yeah, it's outrageous. It's disgusting. They murdered 16,000, injured 100,000. So they canceled the hanging, which they later, by the way, say they didn't cancel the hangings of 800 people. So we appreciate the actions of this evil regime that they chose to postpone the hanging of 800 people who were asking for freedom. That is disgusting. And this amoralistic approach that Trump shows, where it's as if he's dealing with a legitimate entity that you can negotiate with, you can give and take. Now, I would like to say that this could be um, delay. This could be a tactic that he uses, and in the past there has been the case where Trump is giving more words of like appeasement, so that the Iranians sort of lower their guards. We know that the U.S. aircraft carrier is on its way to the region, so it could be indeed the fact that America simply didn't have enough forces, and they did not foresee that the protests will come at this point, and therefore they just have no choice but to delay. That could be a reasonable thing to say. It still doesn't change the fact that America has to intervene as quickly as possible. And if it is true that they cancel it because they allegedly canceled the hanging, that is heinous. It is disgusting, and we will pay for that severely if they end up not doing anything.
Yeah, and generally, I think especially Trump's rhetoric has been like, I mean, this has been going on for a while with dictatorships, just like insanely bad. Like, what is he implying when he says they were going to hang people, but I greatly respect the fact that they canceled that. Like, imagine, I always say, like, imagine it being like a friend, like a scenario with like other person. Hey, that guy was going to beat up some people, but he didn't. I respect him for that. But also there is like an implication. What does respect means? Does Trump think the proper thing for Iran to do was to hang those people, and they restrained themselves? They didn't hang them, so this is like a respect, like we respect that they're restrained from murdering people that decided to protest against the regime.
Yeah, what is
But
this difference between hanging and shooting them in the streets? How is that like worse? If the result is the same.
yeah, and like even like you could say this was just a passing sentence, but one, he said it twice, he repeated it in the same thing, and then he tweeted it. He put out the tweet saying, "I greatly respect," or paraphrasing, "I greatly respect the Iranian regime again for not hanging people." Like this is the standard that we have for countries. Like if Iran is not being targeted because they didn't hang somebody, I can only imagine what Trump thinks like Denmark did with the amount of vitriol Trump is going after them. Like
Yeah.
that's and you make I think a decent point about oftentimes we don't know fully what is the military situation, right? Like what
Yeah.
the preparation. Although when it comes to Iran, those ships should have been there 50 years ago. Like and especially after during the 12-day war and afterwards. I mean,
All of this could have
yeah.
been ended in the 12-day war. All of that could have ended. It is Trump. It is Trump who stopped the Israeli jets. I want us to remember the days of the great ceasefire that he orchestrated, that he stopped. You know, uh, I even disagree with myself. He didn't stop. It is Netanyahu who gave to his demand for the pilots to stop on their way to Tehran. And from what we understand now, that would have been the most decisive strike of the Israeli Air Force against the Iranian leadership had it not been stopped midair. So it is Trump who's put pressure on Israel that this could have ended months ago. Ultimately, it is Netanyahu who gave in to his demands, but he's ultimately also dependent on the US because of the strategic failure that he's led over the last 20 years of having Israel dependent on the US for its security. So yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same old stuff of just caving. And for some reason, like these Iranians tried to kill Trump like twice. He has every like I don't understand. I really don't understand why he's so nice to them.
Yeah, and we have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And Enric says the fleets were focused on Venezuela to get Maduro. But even that is like a problematic thing, right? Like, I to some extent agree with intervention in Venezuela. But Iran is clearly a great threat. Not to mention, one of the reasons why Venezuela is a threat is because of IRGC presence in Venezuela, or IRGC influence on Venezuela. So precisely the reason why we are even talking about Venezuela is because of Iran. It's like saying we need to target the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Iraqi militias, but not targeting Iran. Or like that's their source. That's the one thing you actually have to hit if you consider Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah a threat. If you consider
And
those
they
a threat,
can like they have bases in like this whole thing I found ridiculous. Like they have these bases in Qatar, in Iraq, in like all around the Middle East. America has, and they evacuate all the bases. There's no forces there. What's the point of having a base there if the moment you're about to use it, you're just evacuating it and then you're waiting for the fleet to come in a few weeks' time? Like, we don't evacuate our country whenever we need to strike back at the enemy. Like, it's very bizarre to me. If Israel can strike Iran, a country that is 80 times bigger than it is, surely the US can do that quickly without having to wait for weeks and stop and not it's not a matter even of stopping the murder of the protests in the street. It's a matter of not letting the momentum drop and finish this regime as quickly as possible. That is the ultimate. It is in America's own interest to finish this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and I think people are oftentimes confusing what American intervention in Iran actually means. People are talking about boots on the grounds, and I don't think anybody is even suggesting or talking about it. I think, especially in Iran, the strikes, if they happen, I think would be very oil sites. We still haven't hit the oil sites.
Right.
I think the symbols of the regime. I think targeting the Ayatollah Khomeini or possibly even the president, targeting and we've killed many of them during the 12-day war. Like we already gotten rid of
If
lot of them.
Israel could do that, if Israel can do that, America surely can do that in a much grander scale. It's just cowardice. It's a lack of moral backbone. It is a sentence that really a mind that really thinks that a canceling of hanging is something you should appreciate and praise in the news. Is this mind who just cannot have the moral backbone to say, we are America, we stand for freedom, we stand for justice, and we will defend ourselves no matter the cost, because which by the way is going to be minuscule, if anything, the cost for Americans, and the benefit is going to be huge for decades to come. This is going to be the most significant geopolitical event in recent decades. Everybody understands that. Lindsey Graham says it again and again, and I really like the way he talks about this. What is going on behind the scenes? Maybe there is an attack coming tomorrow. Maybe. I really hope so, Dan. I really hope we're all like there's just this big thing coming and it's gonna be the end. And yet the deaths in the protests are sad, but ultimately the right thing will be done. We can understand that. If not, it really will go down in history as the biggest opportunity for peace in the Middle East that was thrown into the rubbish bins of history, and the mushroom clouds that will come to our skies in Tel Aviv and in New York City and in Los Angeles will be because this historic moment was not seized.
Yeah, and again, the big thing is like Trump promised them something. Trump promised something to Iranian protesters. And I think when it comes to intervention, the calculation is a bit different. I think when you fight somebody like Nazi Germany or the Empire of Japan, I think, target even the civilian infrastructure because those people support the regime and are going with it. I think with Iran, the calculation is different because the people might be on your side. Again, there is a might be of exactly what they stand for. So it's a different calculation, right? You actually just precisely target the military sites or IRGC or things that sustain the regime, the things they are trying to, people that are trying to shut down protests. I cannot. Like some people are saying, like, how would Iranians view the assassination of Khomeini? And at this point, I cannot see that they would have a problem with that. That if Khomeini was assassinated, that suddenly the protests would stop. Suddenly they would see this, oh, now we have to band together because they are coming to destroy us. I mean, even the 12-day war itself, right? Like the way you think about it, every Iranian protester, when they think about going to protest, they know Israel exists and they know Israel has just attacked or has struck them, right? Strike the country just 6 months ago. They have in their mind that could this be like, could Israel use this as opportunity? Yet they still do it because the threat of the regime is bigger to them than any threat of Israel. So this is important thing to remember as well.
Definitely. They will celebrate in the streets, Khomeini's death. Absolutely, they will. And they will become, hopefully, a great ally to the West. Indeed, they have a history with that. The Iranian people are not antagonistic to the West. But Dan, I wrote about it in the essay. We say that a lot, like the Iranian people are our friends and we love them, and suddenly there's great evidence that that's true. But ultimately, if their nation does attack my city with nuclear weapon, doesn't really help them, does it? As much as it doesn't help the German people that what they've done in the Second World War, in the Holocaust, they ultimately will be as culpable as the German people were to the horrors of the Third Reich, if not worse, because the horrors of the Third Reich were hidden from the public. The Iranian regime has openly again and again declared that it is its intention to destroy the Zionist entity. And they have not stopped them. And they have fired missiles, they've killed many people in Israel. And Israel has unfortunately not finished the job. And they, even in this monumental moment, the historical moment, they did not seize the opportunity to take control over their country. So I remember that. And I really hope they will succeed. I really hope for them, for their sake. But ultimately, it's going to be on them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why we did support the 12-day war because Israel was in danger. Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Iran wants to get hold of nuclear weapons. A free country needs to defend itself, and when it is threatened, that's why I say I always bring up the example of Ukraine. I think Ukraine, if they can kill Putin and it makes sense as a strategic decision, go send drones into Moscow, target. I say target civilian sites because to large extent, I think the Russian people haven't really considered what they're doing. They don't
they
really
should pay
think
a price. The Russian
Yeah.
people should pay a price for enabling. Ultimately, we have to remember a state is enabled by its own citizen. Its own citizens, they pay taxes. They, as much as it's hard, and I recognize it fully that it's incredibly hard, especially in a place like Iran. In Russia, it's not as hard, by the way. But still, a country that has people that ultimately support a murderous dictator, that they enable them and they don't do everything in their power to stop them, ultimately they will have to pay the price if they don't do the right thing.
Yeah, and again, the same thing applies, right? I know individual Russians who are against the war or are stuck in Russia and cannot get out and have a problem with that and stand against the regime. This is precisely why we have to advocate for a free society. This is precisely why we have to target evil whenever it shows its ugly head. If we did something with Russia in 2014, we would the people right now, the best people within Russia, wouldn't have to deal with this dilemma right now. Or no, it's not even dilemma because in many ways there is little choice to actually do besides straight up, risk your life. And people that say that we have nothing to do with these countries, well, you are condemning the best people in those countries, the best independent individuals in those countries. You're condemning them because of our inaction, because of our lack of morality, especially in this scenario where like we said, what Israel did with Iran, Israel didn't expect. I think I'm not sure where I've exactly read it, but wasn't it expected that would be like tens of thousands of deaths in
Yes.
Israel during the 12-day war?
Yeah,
Like
it
the
was
response
hysteria.
from Iran, like and Israel still took the decision. With that in mind, that tens of thousands of Israelis would die. Israel took the decision because it understood that the other side would be millions of Israelis dying. So Israel is capable of making that
And
choice.
the Israelis are ready to pay the necessary price to win. The Israelis understand. When I was here throughout the war. I the morale was incredibly high. Nobody was saying, "Oh, we shouldn't attack in Iran. They will throw missiles at us." The contrary, people understood that fully. They did whatever they can to make sure they are safe, and they supported us going all the way because we all understand. I was brought up with this, I've been brought up in this country for as long as I live. I always have this image of maybe one day I'll wake up and there will be a mushroom cloud covering the horizon from my house. This is what we've literally been brought up with. And we all, I think almost all Israelis understood that now is the time we have to be tough, and it's the time we do it. We remove this threat so that the next generation will not have to grow with this fear. And it'll be the case again, even if now Israel launches a strike at Iran, it'll be the case because we understand that. So I wouldn't be concerned from the retaliation of Iran from that perspective. Yes, it's going to be tough. People could die. I really hope not, but it's a good chance they will. But this is what we have to do so that in the future we wouldn't have to worry about being annihilated by a nuclear mushroom cloud.
Yeah, somebody in the chat says news about Trump, and I see this, although this is a bit older, I think from like either would be yesterday, probably late yesterday. Trump said to Politico, "It's time to look for new leadership in Iran." Uh, and that's a great statement, but again, it's incoherent with everything else he says. He says Trump says, help is on the way for the Iranians. Then he says, I respect them. Now he says now is the time for a new leadership. If that respect comment was like a ploy, but where did that ploy go now when he says Iran needs a
Yeah,
new
and
leadership?
Witkoff is going to negotiate with their foreign minister. Like, it's disgusting. At least Israel doesn't do that, you know. At least Israel doesn't send its delegates to go negotiate with the Iranian foreign minister. At least we don't do that. We're standing on the sideline now, and I hope it won't stay that way. I really hope so.
Yeah, and Enric says, "What's with Netanyahu speaking tough and acting weak?"
Uh,
I mean, that for the long, I mean, that's Netanyahu's politics. That's Netanyahu being the prime minister. It's always been like that. He spoke against the disengagement, and then he participated in it, right? So
it's nothing
that
special. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that like Netanyahu, I say Trump is sometimes okay rhetorically. Netanyahu is insanely good rhetorically
Yes.
in many examples, especially in like English, right?
Very
It's
talented.
it's a lot of great stuff. If he was like the envoy to the UN, although his UN speeches suck oftentimes, but if he was, some just sort of position like that, then
Yeah.
great. But no, he is the executive. He is the top hat of the government, and he is not doing what he really even is talking about, right?
I agree. I agree, but I would like to say with that, which I fully agree. Europe, this is a show from Europe, right? ARCUK, you're living in Central Europe, Daniel. This Iran thing, it will be the best service to Europe because Iran is possibly now funding the most dangerous internal war that Europe is in the midst of Islamic takeover. We're seeing what's happening in the West with radical Islamists taking over the capitals, taking over even city halls of some very important cities in the West. It's been the case with London, for example, for a long time. Now, even with New York City. Eliminating Iran is in the best interest of Europe, possibly even as much as it is for the Israelis. And these missiles of Iran will also be a threat to Europe, will be a threat to people in Germany and in the UK and in France and even in Slovakia. But you see, Israel is doing the fight for not only for itself, but for the US, for Europe, for every good country that is now being targeted by Iran's Islamic Revolution. Uh, it, you know what would have been ideal is that it would have been a joint war of the French, the Germans. I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. The French, the Germans, the Polish, the British, all the great European powers would join and fight Israel and America to destroy this Iranian Islamic octopus. Obviously, that will not happen. We can only hope for Israel and the US, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about me. Thankfully, Slovakia always takes the side of the dictatorships and becomes a satellite state of whoever comes in, be it the Nazi Germany or now the Russian state. So, although by that time I'll probably leave. When I say the things like, that people are responsible for the country they live in, right? I understand it, and I understand that at some point I might have to get out of this country because I don't want to get nuked by Americans, or I don't want to get American rocket into my house because Slovakia has decided to join the Russian Empire. And this is something that everybody needs to understand, and everybody that has independent thought, which everybody has capability of doing that, needs to understand that, yeah, if you live in some state and that state declares a war on another nation, you are also an enemy of that nation, even if you agree with them politically, even if, we are pro-American, we are pro-Israeli. Like you said, even the Iranians that are maybe pro-Israeli or pro-American, the fact is, most of Iran has been against them for so long that, the best thing that can happen to Iranians is leave or hopefully fight against the regime and succeed. We have a super chat from Race. Thank you so much. He says for the Daniel Krauss Bunger Fund, or fund, I guess. I don't know why I went German. No, I have I have my gold ready to like bribe the guard on the border to get out and to get the flight out. So I should be good. But thank you for that. With that, Jonathan, any last thoughts from you?
Well, I just have to comment. I saw this comment by Clementine that says, as an Israeli, the fact that Israel hasn't attacked yet is a huge betrayal of the Iranian people. I have to disagree. I don't think we owe anything to the Iranian people, frankly. I don't think Israel owes a thing. Frankly, the Iranian people owe Israel a lot for all the horrors that they have put us under, frankly, if I'm to be totally blunt. And they had their chance in June. And if we don't see fit now, for various reasons, and maybe America will do it, maybe it'll happen from within, I will not be too sad for the Iranian people. If I am to be totally blunt with you, it is not our responsibility. It is the Iranian people's responsibility to take charge over their own future. Israel should help insofar as it's in its interest, and it is indeed in its interest, and they should do it. But we are not the ones who are betraying here. We will betray ourselves if we don't do that. I would like to see that formulation. Actually, it's a betrayal of ourselves because we are robbing our next generation's peaceful future by not doing that. It is not a betrayal of the Iranians. They betray themselves.
And where can people find you?
Our dear viewers can find me on Substack at philosophyIneeded.com. The link should be in the description. I've just released a really good essay on this topic called Now or Never. Please go check that out.
So you can check that out, and you can find me on my YouTube channel, Damned Dan. And with that, we will be back tomorrow with an episode of the Daily Objective and the reality show. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and bye-bye.
Thank you.